Hello friends, and welcome to another figure study where I'm back on my MMC nonsense because I just cannot get enough of that company. So today we're taking a look at Mastermind Creations' Exitus, which is their remolding of, what was their Rodimus called? I don't remember the name of their Rodimus, but they turned him into Getaway. Yes, this is, I believe, the IDW version of Getaway. I don't know, I don't follow the comics or anything, but from what I understand, everyone hates Getaway. I have no opinion because I'm not familiar with the fiction, but I will say I like the figure. I mean, it's the same exact mold as Nitro and Calidus? Was that what it is? I think it was Calidus. Like, it's the same mold with some slight changes here and there, which I will point out in a few places, but yeah, it's pretty much the same figure, and it's really always impressive to me how Mastermind Creations is so good at taking a mold and making it so unique from figure to figure, even if it's the same mold. So here we've got Exitus, Getaway, whatever, and it's the same kind of giant wheels in front, tiny wheels in back, Dark Knight Returns, Batmobile, Tumbler looking thing. And it's neat. I think the colors are really nice. I like the white with the red accents, and the gray wheels with the orange stripe going through the center is pretty nice. They do that on the back wheels too. Some nice colors. I did apply a repro label right there. That is my work. That does not come on the figure. And I don't know what else to say. The translucent red for the windshield is really cool. I like that it's like a darker red, so it doesn't really show any of the junk on the inside there. And I also appreciate that this, unlike with Nitro, it doesn't split the same way, so you don't get this weird partially obscuring thing going up over in front of the robot mode face. But we'll see that more when we get to robot mode. Yeah, I don't know what else I can really say about this, though. It's the same thing as Nitro and Calidus. The nose isn't as pointed, and it also has headlights. There's some pretty decent molding, but a lot of it is the same stuff that we saw before. But now you've got these bits that kind of cover up the sides here, and these little flare-out bits here, and these kind of extra details along here, and like the wings on the back are a little different. You do get a gun, which is the same gun that comes with Nitro, and I'm pretty sure the same gun that comes with Calidus, and that can peg into the peg hole up top here and give you this kind of silly looking turret thing. It's not terrible because the gun's small enough, I think, but it would be kind of nice if this tucked away under, like maybe in here somewhere, and it looks like there's room for it, but I haven't been able to figure out a way to get it to work. Okay, apparently you can just kind of jam it in there a little bit, and it holds pretty well, it seems. Yeah. I'm surprised at how well that holds in there. So I guess you can store the gun underneath the vehicle. All I did was lift these panels up and then slide the gun in this way, and it just kind of seemed to settle, and to close those up, and yeah. So yeah, it's a neat looking car, but it is the same that we saw with Nitro and Calidus. Incidentally, I don't have Nitro anymore, so I can't make that comparison, I'm sorry. But a comparison that I can make, if I adjust the camera a little bit, okay. Comparison that I can make is with the standard Deluxe Squad, and it's a little bit bigger than a Deluxe, but if you're familiar with this mold, you know he compacts really well. And because this is a Mastermind Creations figure, we're going to give the proper respect to this comparison this time. So here is Exitus with Mastermind Creations Spartan. Alright, with all those size comparisons out of the way, the only thing left to do is to transform this guy, and the transformation is very, very similar to Nitro and Calidus. Main differences being these flaps on these sides that fold out temporarily for the sake of transforming this section, and these bits on the shoulders, which we'll see in more detail later. But let's get to it. we have Exitus in his robot mode. They did not do anything to address the absurd ratchets on the hips, let me tell you that. But yeah, I think this is really cool. As is usually the case with most Mastermind Creations figures, especially, or in particularly the ones that they turn into multiple figures and multiple color schemes and remolds and stuff, I am, of course, really impressed with how they managed to take a mold for a completely different character and make it look like a completely different character again. There's like just enough with Exitus that helps him stand out from his mold brethren, with like the little winglets on the shoulders, these little bits in the torso, the kind of slightly extra bits on the shins, and then these little flaps from the vehicle mode just kind of tuck around the backs of the calves there, so those don't really affect anything. I really appreciate how they managed to take something like, you know, the Calidus figure and make it into a completely different figure, different character. It's very cool. I like the colors here too, with the bright whites and then that really dark burgundy red and that really deep navy blue and dark gray. It's a really solid color scheme. And then you get these little hits of that kind of the same kind of mustard yellow that Aether Beta had in the forearms and the face. And then those bright orange highlights in the shoulder wheels and the a little bit going through the torso. I think it looks really good. You even get a little bit of that orange in the shins there. The actual orange is hidden in the wheels that are inside the shins. I like that they bring a little bit more in there. Now, anyone watching the transformation who's familiar with this figure may have noticed that I did not click the heels, the ankles back. And that's because I'm kind of with Vangelis on this, where I prefer how having the ankles shifted forward means you get much more ankle rocker articulation, which we'll go over more when we get to the articulation. But yeah, you get way more tilt on the ankle if you have these pulled forward. But for anyone wondering, yes, I do know that you do that. I just choose not to because it gives him much more ankle tilt. Now, proportionally, I think this guy looks great. He looks very kind of sleek and slender, but still cool and also speedy, which I guess is the point. I don't really know much about Getaway. It works. I think it's neat, and I just really like the design and colors on this guy. I think the mold is fun too. The only real gripe I have with this mold is pretty much the same gripe that everyone else has, which is that those hips, just the ratchet detents are kind of ridiculous. You can cheat the ratchets a bit, but if you move them out to where they actually detent, you get the kind of slightly too wide power stance. It's not so absurd that it ruins the figure, but I do wish that you had a little bit more of a neutral stance without having to cheat the ratchets, because this is cheating the ratchets. If I bring it in, you get basically stock straight or spread out like that, and that's not great. They were remolding so much on this guy for this character that I feel like maybe they could have done something about the hips, but they didn't. Anyway, enough griping about his legs. Let's talk about his head, and that head is very neat. From what I understand, it is very reminiscent of IDW Getaway, I think. It looks good. I like the shape on it. I kind of like this kind of two-tiered mohawk thing that's going back there. Very nice, sleek angles and kind of curve on the earpieces going down to that like vent on the side of the face mask. Nice bright blue eyes and some nice detailing in the head crest as well. I'm not super fond of that mustard yellow like they used with Aether Beta, but it's used very sparingly here, like just on the forearms and the face, and I feel like that's fine. I don't see myself painting over the yellow here, but it's still like not my favorite color, but it works okay. And I think here the darker yellow works better with this really deep blue. At least it works better than it did with Aether Beta's color scheme. As for the rest of the detailing, it's pretty much the same. Well, most of the molding is the same as with Nitro and with Calidus, except you get some slightly different things like these little flaring bits on the shins. The kind of shoulder sections are a little different. I believe these panels here are the same as they were on Nitro, just they're all blue instead of that kind of red and black separation that they had. And the chest is new sculpt, but the same overall engineering except for these little bits. And I don't know if these are supposed to go up like this or flare out more like this. I like having them flared out like this because you see that kind of shoulder wheel detail, but when it's up like this, they get out of the way of the arms a little bit better. So, I don't know. I guess it's good that they're adjustable because then you can just kind of put them wherever you want. Now, as for the articulation, as we saw on the head, you can turn. You can't turn super far because of this enormous popped collar that he has going, but you can turn enough to get expressive with it. You get a little bit of side-to-side waggle. You can also look up and down. Well, down not so much, but you can look up, and then there's also a hinge at the base of the neck, so you can shift that back if you want, which can aid in looking up at least. The arms, as you saw, can pull it out a little bit. They can rotate around. You've got outward motion to about there, but you can, there's like two hinges. There's one here and one up in here, so if you bring that out a little bit more, you can get a little bit further. You get a bicep rotation right up there, and then you also get a rotation just below the elbow, so you've got a couple of options, and then you've got that extremely nice elbow bend that, because of the transformation, is designed to bend pretty much all the way up. The wrist is on a ball joint, so you can wiggle that around, and you can also rotate it, but because of this panel here, it's a little bit tricky to rotate too far, but you get that motion, and then you also have the pinned fingers, with the index finger being separate and then the other three fingers being separate. There is also a waist rotation. Because of this thing sticking down, it does get in the way of the waist rotation, so it stops right about there, which I think is fine. Like, that's probably beyond the amount of waist rotation you'd need to get expressive, so I think that's fine. Also, this kind of ties into what I was saying before, how because this is attached here, you don't get that windscreen partially obscuring the face up here that you had with Nitro, and I like that. The hips can go forward about that far. It's just the stuff here is kind of crashing, which is keeping it from going out further, but if you bring the hips out a little bit, then they can go forward a bit more. You can go back that far, you can go out almost a full 90, but not quite. You get the thigh rotation, and again, the in and out motions. Just, I wish those detents weren't as severe. For the knee bend, you get a pretty respectable 90 degrees, maybe slightly under. It's kind of hard to tell. And then for the foot, you can go forward a bit, you can go down all the way, and the heel will just kind of automatically suck into the calf because that's what it does for transformation. And as we saw before, you get that ankle tilt, and the ankle tilt is much better if you keep the ankles clicked forward rather than pushing them back. And then, of course, you have the gun, which, as I said, is pretty sure the same gun that came with Nitro and Exitus, though I do like that they painted some of the bits in this kind of darker gray color. So you've got the black and then some gray, some gray. It just separates it out a little bit more, which is nice. And this little strip on the underside, which is kind of impressive because that's a bit that you're not really going to see. But that just slides into the hand, as most of these things do, and you can throw the fingers around, and then you've got the gun. And yeah, that is pretty much it for all that stuff. So let's move Exitus back here and readjust so that we can finish up with our size comparisons. Here is Exitus with the Standard Deluxe squad. As I mentioned when we were looking at the vehicle mode compacts so well that he's slightly bigger than a Deluxe, but then once he's in robot mode, he is significantly taller than a Deluxe. And once again, giving the figure the respect that it quite honestly does deserve. I make the jokes, but as I've said several times in the past, this is actually a really, really good figure. I just think the alt mode looks a little silly. But here is Exitus with Mastermind Creation Spartan, and they do look pretty good together. Hi. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever get tired of the of the Mastermind Creations aesthetic. Like, I know it's the IDW aesthetic, but it looks so good in toy form when Mastermind Creations does it. So that is it for Mastermind Creations Exodus, or Getaway. And I do really like this figure. I don't know anything about Getaway, as I've said, so if he is a complete scumbag, then that's a shame, but the figure's really neat. Anyway, that is going to do it for Mastermind Creations Exodus. What do you all think of this guy? Specifically the toy. I'm pretty sure you all hate the character. That seems to be universal truth. Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. If you like the videos that I do and feel like supporting the channel, there is always the Patreon option. Not a requirement, but it is an option. There's a link in the description, and there's also going to be one in the end card. There's just a $1 tier. That is the only tier. But it is there to support the channel, and will also get you early access to videos, and will also get you access to the occasional behind-the-scenes post. Again, not a requirement, but it would be appreciated. And, just watching, commenting, that kind of thing, that is also appreciated. But regardless, thank you everybody for watching, and remember, art is more than meets the eye.